Hi, I wanted to have a chat today about fertility. I got a specific request for this video, and I'm actually so glad because it's something that's been swirling around for me to do for quite a while, so it feels like time. People ask me about this frequently when they find out that I had Vivian at 47. And I find this topic very interesting, and I actually have a lot of thoughts on it. Now, to CYA, I'm not a doctor. I'm not any kind of medical professional. I am not a fertility specialist. I am a health coach. I am someone with a bachelor's degree in environmental studies, which does give me some background in toxicology and how our environment affects our body, including our fertility. So those are things that I'm interested in, that I have learned about. But I think most powerfully for me, is my own medical history and my own experiences. So I can kind of talk from all three of those bases with you today and just kind of give a little discussion. And if you have any specific questions that I didn't cover, please write them in the comments and I'll see what I can do to answer those. So fertility rates in general are way down. So there was a study in 1938 that showed, there was a study that showed in the 90s that showed from 1938 till the early 90s, fertility was cut in half. Sperm count, was cut in half, was halved. So there are a lot of reasons why that could be, but one of them is definitely the number of chemicals we are exposed to on a daily basis our entire lives. And I talked about in my video about makeup last week, and that is also really relevant to this. And if you want to go deeper and listen to that one, also on that aspect is very relevant, and you'll see why in a minute. But we are exposed to so many chemicals in our environment that affect our fertility. And just one I talked about in the makeup video are parabens, and they are endocrine disruptors. There are a lot of chemicals in our environment that are endocrine disruptors, which negatively affect or can negatively affect fertility and reproduction. So we could go into a big toxicology thing. And the more you want to learn about that, maybe the better. But I really like a top-down approach. To me, it makes sense to just very simply remove as many toxins from your environment and as many toxins in a larger sense. So not just chemically, but anything that is going to negatively affect your health will ultimately potentially have a negative influence also on your reproductive capacity. So if we want to look at it in a holistic sense like that, anything that makes you healthier will also make you more likely to be able to conceive. That's just common sense. So I really like to take that top-down approach and look at it that way rather than bottom up and go over all the chemicals you want to avoid and all that. I don't like that approach. It's not kind of the way my brain works, and I think a lot of other people are the same way too, and it makes it so much simpler if we take the other approach, which is remove things that are harmful, add in things that are healthy. It's very simple, and it takes a little detective work, however, because a lot of these things we are so used to that they become invisible to us, and we forget to take a look at them. So things like maybe laundry soap or furniture polish. Does anyone use furniture polish? So just kind of starting there with a holistic view, what we want to do is really make you healthier if you're looking to conceive. So ideally, you would start a year out, I think, before you're going to try to conceive. Now, That's probably somewhat unlikely because if you're, if you're not even, usually people would be like, okay, I'm ready to conceive. You don't really think about a year out. But if you are in a position where you have time before you're thinking about starting to try to conceive, it would be amazing to start this as early as possible. This will make you healthier anyway. So this is my advice for everyone. But in particular, these things are things that for me changed everything. I had a bunch of hormonal issues, particularly in my 20s and 30s. So my periods were very irregular. I sometimes had really painful periods. I sometimes had no periods. I had acne. I just dealt with kind of a bunch of symptoms that were indicative of hormonal issues. So the acne here, it's all hormonal imbalance. So I will tell you what I did to balance those out. And I will tell you in a big holistic way. And I will tell you everything I know that contributed in my experience to being able to conceive when I wanted to at 47. So in my mind, these are contributors. Obviously, there's no guarantee, right? And everybody's different, but these things are going to make you healthier in general. So you're welcome. Okay, so what you want to do is take a look at everything in your life. Everything in your life, if you're thinking about conceiving, you want to take a look, especially now in this pandemic time when people are spending so much time at home, but people tend to spend so much time at home anyway. You want to take a look at your home. Look at the materials that your blankets are made of, your rugs, things that are old that you've had forever or have probably already off-gassed what they're going to off-gas, for example. But if you're buying new things, if you're bringing new things into your house, look for things that do not, for instance, have flame retardants on them. That's a bad one. That are made of natural fibers, that are made of cotton, for instance. So those kinds of things, you want to just really use common sense and look for things that are quote unquote natural. Don't just take a label that says natural. I've mentioned this before. The word natural has actually no legal definition, so it is meaningless. It is just a marketing term. But use your common sense and choose things that are more natural as opposed to less natural, right? So if you're looking at what you're using in your kitchen, if you're looking at food storage, you want to look at things like start using glass rather than plastics. Plastics now are labeled, a lot of them, especially for children, BPA free. However, there are a lot of other chemicals in plastics besides the particular one of bisphenol A. There are lots of them. That's just one of them that they're choosing to identify and remove. So it's really like that top-down approach. Remove your plastic. Remove your plastics from your food storage, that type of thing. So you want to look at the chemicals, obviously, that you're using in your home. Cleaning chemicals are a big one. Before I go any farther, I want to mention this book. I love this book. It's very simple. It gives a background about why you want to avoid chemicals, and then it gives you recipes for things to use instead. I even took it way simpler than this and pretty much took out all cleaning chemicals. I use baking soda and vinegar and water. Pretty much that's it. I don't even use regular toothpaste. I make my own toothpaste, which I could do a video on at some point. But this is such a good place to start. It's by Karen Segal Mayer. I mentioned this in both of my books, I believe, because I just love it. It's this tiny little book that's so helpful and such a good place to start with detoxing your home. So you're thinking about detoxing your entire life. So if you start with your home, you're going to look at any chemicals that you have in your home, anything that you're using, including what you do your laundry with, personal products that you use, anything that you use on or in your body, you want to be looking at that. For instance, what tampons are you using? What pads? We want to have things without dioxins in them, for instance, but you really don't have to know all those chemicals. Like I'm saying, you need to just have a holistic sense of, we want to use natural things. For instance, instead of using packaged menstrual pads, I use moon pads, and they're like kind of old school, how people used to use literal rags, which Are You on the Rag came from. These are pads that are just made of material without any toxins in them, all natural ingredients. You can generally get them at health food stores or order them online. I think I mentioned mine are called moon pads, but there are other brands out there. So you want to be looking at things like that. Anything that you are having in your space as far as that might be toxifying the air. Let's stop using air fresheners, even those like plug-in ones. Anything like that, any hairsprays, any personal hair products, makeup products, lotions. We want to go back to as basic as possible and substitute these out with food grade items if at all possible. And if you are trying to conceive, if you're pregnant, definitely try as hard as you can to use food grade products. For instance, I just did a recent video about using olive oil for skin moisturizer. It's awesome, and you'll find that these substitutes that are just the natural ingredients tend to work better, and you feel better, and you're not getting this big increase in your toxic load all the time. I always mention this, but we all carry a toxic load from conception, and it is not about elimination. It is about just decreasing what we're intaking and detoxing as much as we can. So anything you want to do about detoxing, that's a whole separate issue as well. But if you are looking at all these things, your body is naturally detoxing all the time. So as many of these things as you can just remove from your home and your body and your life, your environment, your body is going to have less of a load coming in, not be just fighting fires all the time, putting out fires, and be able to accelerate the healing and the detox process on its own without you doing some, crazy detox. Which if you'd like to do that, that's, like I said, a whole different topic. So you want to look at your home, you want to look at the items in your home and any products that you're using. That's kind of the easiest and first off thing to do. You want to just do a whole house clean and dispose of those in an environmentally friendly way as well. Anything you're getting rid of. So some things people don't think about are maybe getting an air purifier. Can be really helpful. Indoor air is famously many times more toxic than outdoor air. So anytime you can open your windows, unless you live on a busy street, open windows and let fresh air in. And then if you have an air purifier, you can be detoxifying your air. So that's a good one. Water, be drinking really good quality water, even in the shower, because your skin is absorbing to some degree, at least whatever goes on it. So I really recommend getting a shower filter. Aquasana, just as a tip, is a good one. I have used that for years. You want to be looking at the kind of lights you have in your home. Fluorescent lighting is not the best. It produces this kind of flickering thing that neurologically isn't calming, and you want to be as calm and zen and centered as possible, because that is going to reduce your stress chemicals and make you more likely to conceive. So anything that's causing you stress in your life, try to bring that shit down and really get calm and cool and healthy. That's a big part, and I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. But in the home, you want to, I just made myself some little notes here. So you want to look at the air, you want to look at the water, you want to look at the light. You want to look at sound too. Sound can be a toxin too. It can cause stress chemicals to happen in the body. So if you live on a busy street, if you have just kind of the TV on all the time, like start looking at the noise pollution in your home and in the environments where you spend a lot of time, and maybe start mitigating some of that. And that could mean maybe having a sound machine at night when you sleep. So there's so many things in my mind, because each one of these areas, it's really its own like huge area of study. So you can kind of look into it as much as you want to, but really doing the top down thing, really just kind of knocking out the biggest offenders can make a huge, huge difference. So I just encourage you to do that, but just check out kind of the sound inputs that you're receiving in your home on a daily basis or in your environment. Another thing to look at is radio frequencies, EMFs. So you want to be reducing that as much as possible. My daughter actually sleeps in an EMF blocking tent every night. I am super sensitive to EMFs, particularly from Wi-Fi, if it's really strong. For instance, at Kyle's house, I always had to unplug the Wi-Fi at night because I literally feel it, and it was very hard for me to get to sleep. So even if you're not in a place where you're able to perceive that, your body is perceiving it. So anything you can do to dull that down or eliminate is beneficial for you. So I turn off my Wi-Fi every night. I have a little remote, and it controls plugs that I have. So it literally just, it's a kind of a box that you plug into the wall, and then you plug whatever you want to have to be able to turn it on and off with this remote into that. So my Wi-Fi is into that. So every night I turn off my Wi-Fi. I also have some lights on there. It's just really handy to click everything off. So that's another area you might want to look at. I'm trying to make sure I don't miss anything. I'm sure I will. But generally, you just want to just take a look at your home. Take a look at anything that might be either disruptive and cause a stress response that you would be aware of, or cause a stress response in your body as far as, for instance, chemicals that we talked about a lot already. So the next thing you want to look at, super obviously, is food, what you're taking into your body. To me, this should have been number one, actually. And this is the thing that changed everything for me. I worked with a lot of specialists on my hormones. I did a lot of different treatments, a lot of different testing, a lot of frustration, a lot of years. And what really changed that dramatically for me was changing my diet, was doing a raw vegan diet. But even if that's like, what even is that to you? If you are making your diet healthier in any way, that's going to make you healthier, make you more likely to conceive. So if you are not vegan right now, I would suggest looking into that, seeing if that's right for you. I had so many people, not the medical professionals I worked with, interestingly. They had zero concerns. I think they had seen my health over a period of time and knew I was super duper healthy, so they weren't concerned about it. They knew I was handling it. As far as getting pregnant with Vivi. But I had been raw vegan for almost 10 years when I conceived her, and was raw vegan primarily throughout my whole pregnancy. And I have a video about that also. But if you're not vegan, if you're eating meat tends to have antibiotics in it, tends to include chemicals that when the animal was killed, you're getting its hormonal fear chemicals. There are a lot of issues with eating meat that you can look into or not look into. I'm not going to go into it in this video, but if you're interested in that, you're interested in going vegan, I have a little book that I got when I first started doing vegan food, and I had so much fun. It's just super simple recipes. And I believe these are all kind of around travel, but had so much fun with this. Her name is Sarah Kramer. So this is just a fun one to start with. If you're like, what? I don't even know. You might start there. If you're already vegan and thinking, oh, I really want to try raw. Raw is a great way, eating raw food. So that means eating, and I do vegan also, so eating food with no animal products and food that is not heated over 118 degrees, 115, 118 degrees. So I use a dehydrator. I don't use an oven. You can watch more about that. You probably already know if you found me already more about that. But if you're interested in just starting to go raw, raw is a great way for your body to kick into detox. And I wouldn't recommend this if you already are pregnant to just kind of go straight into it like cold turkey. You might want to wean into it. Talk to your doctor, talk to your naturopath if you're lucky enough to have one of those. But if you're interested in looking into going raw, here's a really easy book. Pretty sure nothing in here, minimal kitchen equipment. So you don't need like a dehydrator or anything. There's just some actually amazingly good recipes in this book if you wanted to just start adding in more raw, healthy, vegan food. With your food also, this might be an obvious one, you want to take the chemicals out of your food as much as possible. Why in the world would we want to be eating poisons? Some people talk about it's less expensive. Okay, it's a little bit more expensive to not eat chemicals, but yeah, thank you. I will pay you to take the chemicals out of my food so I can have my health back. Thank you very much. At least that's how I look at it. So you want to be eating organic foods and as good a quality as possible. If you're in a position where you can order a farm box, that would be great. You're getting seasonal foods. I use Farm Fresh to You. They send me, obviously seasonal. It's just what's growing in the farm that season. Everything's organic and local. So yeah, and you have an automatic variety in your diet if you start just using what's in your box. So that's a good way. If you're already doing a little bit of raw or thinking about doing raw, this one I always recommend this. I think it's out of print, so it's a little bit pricier than it used to be, but Living on Live Foods by Alyssa Cohen is amazing. The first half is testimonials. It's why you would do raw food. It's Alyssa's story. It's so inspirational. I just love it. And then the second half are fairly simple, really tasty recipes that you can use. If you are already doing raw and you haven't seen me before, because I have mentioned this book a ton of times, this is my freaking favorite book. You can see how used it is. It's called Wild Plate. It's by Laurel Anderson. She has a restaurant, or used to. It's a beautiful, beautifully done book with beautiful pictures and like next level raw food stuff. So those are just some recommendations I have if you're looking at that. If you're just barely like even just starting to think about your food, top down it, like just start doing organic. And if you eat mostly produce, it really isn't that expensive. So those are some thoughts on there. Gosh, all of these are like 1,000 things I could say about it. But I think the most valuable thing is really just keep reiterating to use the top-down approach, take out the most violent offenders first, and take out as many things as you can think of that are harmful. Put in as many things as you can think of that are healthful and supportive for your system. So food to me probably is the biggest one. Household chemicals, also huge. You want to look at, I touched on this a little bit, but you want to look at anything that's causing you stress or is neurologically damaging, or is just damaging to your state of mind and your joy and happiness. Because when all of those chemicals are lined up, your body's like, okay, let's have a baby. This person's healthy. So yeah, look at meditation is massive. Even if it's just 20 minutes once or twice a day, you get really amazing results from that. Being in nature will give you increased measurements on health and happiness in so many areas. decreases blood pressure. Like all of those things are going to help you out. So just pack them all in there. And even if they're like, have a plant on your desk, go outside for a walk, just be aware of just spending more time in nature will be beneficial for you. So I mentioned anything you put on and in your body. I want to make sure I'm not missing at least like a big category. Let me know if I did for you. If you're like, well, you didn't mention this. What about that? I'm happy to really address anything you guys are interested in, but make your home environment calming. Use colors that are calming and music that is calming. If there are people in your life that are toxic people, I think that's an overused kind of phrase, but if there are people in your life that stress you out, how can you at least minimize your contact with them? How can you increase your time with people that make you feel joyful, that reflect your beauty and your wonderfulness in the world, and that you do the same for them, that are just reciprocally amazing relationships? How can you bring health to that part of your life? So it's not just what you put on and in your body and what's in your house. It's what are you putting into your mind and your experience. Those things can be either toxic or supportive for reproduction as well. And it's always about minimizing, the bad and maximizing the good. So I think you get the picture. Is there anything else I wanted to say? Just generally use good self-care, make sure you're flossing, make sure you're washing your makeup off at night, make sure your makeup's good quality, make sure everything in your life is a good quality. And that's really just going to support you in everything you do, and including fertility also. So hair dye is another one that you want to really look into. They can have effects. Also, obviously, you're leaving that on your head for like 45 minutes sometimes if you're doing it yourself, or if your salon is doing it. There are brands that are non-toxic that you can use. You can talk to your salon about that if you go to a salon. And there are professional brands that can be used that are completely non-toxic. A brand that I use at home is, blanking on it, Nature Color. Nature Color. There's another one called Nature Tint. I like Nature Color better. That's one I've used forever and I really like it. You can also, when I was pregnant, I used Henna, which was a big pain in the butt. But I was so about removing any chemicals from my life during my pregnancy. I was so aware of that I went to great lengths after already having gone to great lengths and that just being part of my life. So I hope that was helpful. Let me know if there are any specifics about that I could add to. And if you are trying to get pregnant, and if you're not, I'm sending you love. I'm sending you light. I'm in the highest vibration for you guys to be healthy, to heal, to detoxify, to add in anything healthy, to reconnect with the self so that you can really get in touch with knowing your body and knowing what feels good and what doesn't feel good, which makes it much easier to just naturally detoxify things. And listen to your body, listen to how your body feels when you eat a certain thing or you're around a certain person. Really become aware of that and listen to it and act on it. Your body knows. Your body is much wiser than your brain. So it's a good wise guru in there for you. Okay, my best to everyone, and thanks for listening. This was a long one. So if you made it through, kudos. And again, let me know if there's anything else I can address. Thanks.